Yeah, after long and painful torture. Yeah. Even up, you're right, though, even up until recently, the Pope, I mean, there's still, what, 1.5 billion Catholics in the world. But apparently, somehow, Donald Trump mouthed off at the Pope. I don't know, is it because the Pope started it? I mean, maybe you started it. No, you started it. No, we're at that point, so maybe that's what it is. And maybe the evangelicals, have no love for Catholics. Or maybe, some people see the Pope as some kind of antichrist, center of power or something like that.
And, I'll say it on this show because I can talk a little bit more morbid on this show, but this is one of those election cycles where you have to take a good, hard look at who runs as vice president, because Hillary Clinton's 68, Bernie Sanders is 74, Trump is 69.
Yeah. Right.
69 plus possible 8 years.
Eesh.
And actually, in any of these three people, maybe plus an assassin's bullet.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I want that to happen. Actually, I do get a big kick out of Trump. I don't want to see that happen. But
it's a real possibility.
To me, I'll tell you, when you think about how many people he's pissed off, and this is where we say, like on the Haunted Cabaret, the home of all things horror, lately real life, is giving a lot of competition to the fictional horror. Like,
exactly.
I can't do better, in fiction. Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump has pissed off everybody, but mainly the power brokers, the political power brokers. And I'm not sure how much. Well, I guess he's trying to cover one of his bases, saying he's going to increase the military spending. And, I think even he knows that if he says he's going to cut the military, he's going to be dead before the three more primaries go by. Because the military industrial complex will definitely finish him off then. Yeah. Just like they'll finish off Bernie Sanders if Bernie Sanders is elected. When he actually tries to, do half of the crap he says, no, he won't last. He'll be going faster than John F. Kennedy. Yeah. But all right, anyway, let's get back to the music. How about some? Here's a song that's appropriate for this election cycle and these times we live in. We'll play some Fear Factory, "Invisible Wounds" here on the Haunted Cabaret on Rhode Island Free Radio.
In darkness, no sign of light ever given. Imprisoned in the world without the memory. Unconscious or am I conscious? Cut from the heart, I am part of. Sometimes I realize though I'm frozen in heaven, and I I see myself flying closer to the sun, and I'm climbing. Try to touch the sun, the brightness burn my eyes. Unconscious or am I conscious? Fell from the sky like a star. Sometimes I realize though I'm frozen in heaven, and I
All right, that was Fear Factory, Invisible Wounds here in the Haunted Cabaret. And yes, that diabolical laugh that you probably heard bleed into the end of that track from Tony Jones was because we're having a plain old-fashioned tiff here at the table.
Here. It's just
Between
me being me.
yeah, something about threatening to plant 5 fingers across Nurse Misery, and who wants to how would you say it? You wanted to go home and ice cream and bitch?
Ice cream in bed.
Oh, ice cream in bed. Okay.
I wanted to eat ice cream in bed.
Wow.
I heard ice cream and bitch, too, so don't feel bad.
If I have ice cream in my mouth, I can't bitch.
Oh, yes, you can.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
I'm
Well,
not
yeah.
that talented.
I'll tell you this. Well, maybe bitching is maybe that should be the theme of the show, because it seems that there's a lot of it going on out in the world. There's a lot of it going on in horror and superhero fandom. On Chuckles' show, we touched on this Superman versus Batman thing. Well, we did more than touch on it. We got kind of into it, so you want to refer back to his show. But I don't know. We talked a lot about it, but what I'm left with is every time we have one of these long-awaited matchups, from I think Chuckles, you mentioned, the first one was Frankenstein versus the Wolfman.
Yep.
From way back in the 1940s. Ever since then, whether it's Frankenstein versus the Wolfman, King Kong versus Godzilla, Freddy versus Jason.
Abbott and Costello meets Dracula?
Well, actually,
They met the mummy, too, didn't they?
Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein actually was a really funny movie.
It was.
That was like an old-time Ghostbusters type of
And
thing.
using the original characters, and it made it even better.
Yeah.
Throwing
Yeah.
Bela Lugosi and
Actually, I think that was Bela Lugosi's best job as Dracula.
Yeah.
I really think so. He put a little bit of humor into it, but not too much. He was still Dracula, and that was a great Lugosi performance.
and of course Boris Karloff as well. And I like that.
Well, no,
one, too.
Boris Karloff didn't act in.
He wasn't the Frankenstein.
No,
in that
he
one?
wasn't the Frankenstein monster. He had retired from that. Let me think. The original characters in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, Dracula, Bela Lugosi. Lon Chaney Jr. played the Wolfman.
Yep, I remember that one.
But no, Frankenstein's monster, I believe, was played by Glenn Strange.
Okay,
Who-
it's one of the very few times that Bela wasn't Frankenstein.
Yeah,
Then.
well, Lugosi, yeah. I mean, Karloff. Yeah,
Karloff.
one of the old-time horror actors didn't play the monster. Glenn Strange was a newcomer. No, by that time, actually, Boris Karloff, I think he saw the character's potential had come to an end, as far as playing the character. The other problem was that when he played the Frankenstein monster in the first film, he hurt his back doing it. So every time he played the Frankenstein monster, it took a little bit more out of his discs in his back.
Putting those big ass
Yeah, I
freaking
mean, was it-
lifts up on his feet.
Yeah,
and everything.
18-pound boots or whatever they were, and yeah. So by the time that Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein came around, he was playing the mad scientist rather than like in House of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Karloff played the mad scientist, not the monster, and actually was twice as creepy. But as far as conflicts among well-known horror characters, yeah, I mean it's never ended well.
No, you always get a screw
Not to
job.
this point. Yeah.
There's nothing happy at the end of this.
No, there's never a definite winner.
And it's not only a screw job, but it's usually a poorly done screw job.
I mean, the only one I remember there being a good ending after, and it was a really terrible movie, was Demonic Toys versus Puppet Master.
Yeah.
I remember that one with.
There was a clear cut.
There was a clear ending to that one, but even at the end, one of the toys popped back up into the picture.
Yeah,
so
so it's kind of like it ended, but
Right, but that's not of the stature
no.
of these other confrontations that we're talking about.
Yeah, they're definitely not on their level. Demonic Toys,
Toys and
Puppet Master.
No, Superman, Batman, like Godzilla, King Kong. Which one doesn't belong here?
Yeah, Alien versus Predator, another fantastic screw job. We really don't get a definite answer on that.
No, and I don't see any reason why in that one you couldn't.
yeah.
I mean, obviously, as formidable as the aliens are, the Predator it's a predator.
They
It's
kill.
a hunter. It's like
It's
a
what
big.
they do.
It's like a human big game hunter. Hunting an animal, no matter how intelligent. It's
Yeah.
Once they made that series PG-13,
Oh, they destroyed
They
it.
they were done with it.
Kind of
Right
like
there.
wrestling.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
once you turn something that is basically rated R, both of them,
Yeah.
into a child-friendly movie, you killed it. It was done.
Oh, kind of like then the other screw job was Tony mentioned wrestling. I mean, up there with as far as to a long-term wrestling fan like myself, another confrontation and rivalry that was right up there with Godzilla versus King Kong and Freddy versus Jason in wrestling was back in the WWF Attitude Era when Triple H had the rivalry with Mick Foley. Yep, Tony. Yep, I just got a rise out of Tony. Yep, and this was. I'm not going to do wrestling the whole show.
The cage match, the phenomenal cage match that retired Foley from the wrestling, that didn't really retire him.
Yeah, the street fight.
Yep.
Yeah, but that rivalry, it went. I think it maybe I want to say 2 years, but not quite. I mean, it started in a like nonchalantly enough,
Right.
But Foley and Triple H, they worked that thing up into like a fever pitch of suspense, like up there with Jason versus Freddy, as far as what was going to happen in this match. And, including the transformation of Mick Foley into Cactus Jack, which I'll tell you, if anybody has that on video, I would love to see that again. Back when, a few months before the final confrontation, when Triple H pile drives Mick Foley on the table, and Mick Foley's laying there on the table. Triple H walks away. Then Foley turns his head, and you see this diabolical smile. And you know what I'm saying, without any words being spoken. I mean, this could be like an acting, school, like for the job he did on this. Without a word being spoken, you know that his personality, he's changed.
Right.
And by the way, I have to pat myself on the back because I was in one of the SummerSlams where that rivalry took place was in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was at that. I was at that not SummerSlam, Thursday night
SmackDown.
Thank you. Yeah, Thursday night SmackDown, and that was the night when Mick Foley said he wasn't going to let his little kids watch the match. The street fight with Triple H. But he thought it would be okay if he gave his kids a little bit of a sample about what was going to happen to Triple H that night. And he went wild. He beat the living hell out of Triple H, dragged him up on the timekeeper's table, and gave him 5 pile drivers on the table. The table, it wasn't a cut table. The table wouldn't break. So Cactus Jack decided that something was going to break. It was either going to be the table or Helmsley's head.
Wow.
And he gave, pile driver number 1. Helmsley slumps off the table. Table is intact. 2, drags him back up there. Table survives. Took 5. 5 pile drivers on the table before the table cracked in half, and all 3 of them, the 2 of them in the table ended up on the floor.
It must have been that trauma which caused Triple H to find Stephanie McMahon attractive.
after the boob job. After the boob job. But yeah, and naturally the television, broadcast only showed 1 pile driver when he broke the table. But there were 5 of them. But anyway, and as far as screw jobs go, we all know what happened in the street fight. Now, up until, I think Tony, you can confirm this, right? Up until just before the match, Cactus Jack was supposed to win that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,